Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler. This time we finally move our coverage into some of the spin-off materials for the Star Wars films. We're starting to look at, among other things, the Star Wars cartoons. Now, we won't be looking at the holiday special, at least not yet, because there is no dedicated home video version of that special. So we start our look with Ewoks. Now, Ewoks was a cartoon series that ran on ABC from September of 1985 through the end of its second season in December of 1986. Basically, you had new episodes running from September to November of 85 as what's referred to as Season 1. That was 13 episodes, 13 stories. And then you had a second season from September of 1986 until December of 1986 that included 22 separate stories with a smaller number of actual episodes. We'll get to that here in a moment, how they actually set that up. But basically, this is a series from Nelvana that was geared toward children. Nelvana is the same company that made Care Bears. They also made the cartoon in the Star Wars Holiday Special, so you kind of get a sense of the quality level that this might have. The story is focused on Wicket W. Warwick, Princess Nisa, Teebo, their kind of bitchy friend Latara, and their adventures with the other Ewoks on the forest moon of Endor, mostly prior to, or at least we were thinking at the time, prior to the invasion by the Imperials as they're putting together the Death Star 2. Now, granted, thanks to Star Wars Volume 2 and other sources, the Death Star 2 is already being created over Endor well before these stories take place, but we don't actually see the Imperial interaction until the final, or one of the final episodes of this series. Season 1, decent enough, kind of a cutesy little series here. Ran for, like I said, 13 episodes. You start with the Cries of the Trees, work your way through the season finale, Asha, which introduces the long-lost sister of Princess Nisa. The second season also ran for 13 weeks, 13 separate episodes. But as they produced this as the all-new Ewoks, and boy it was, we'll get to that in a second, they broke it down sometimes so that some episodes were regular. One episode, one story. But a lot of them were one episode split in half with two stories that, once you removed commercials, only ran about 11 minutes each. This season picked up with the Crystal Cloak and ran all the way through the last aired episode of the series, Milani the Warrior. Now, what really stinks about all of this is that ABC apparently had a change of heart moving into the second season. They wanted to be more little teeny tiny kid friendly, more basically goofy, quite a bit, in many cases, less Star Wars. And they went through, and I say, they ripped out the soul of the individual characters. Wicket went from being sort of the heroic young character to being a complete smartass who cusses in Ewokese things like Kark or Kavark all the time. He was basically a little jackass. Teebo went from being the wise one, sort of wise beyond his years, to a complete bumbling moron who was absolutely in love with Latara, to the point that at one point his heart is beating out of his chest, ba-boom, 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 Looney Tunes style. Nisa pretty much stayed the same. Latara, for her part, went from being the sort of a bitchy, sort of self-centered girl who was, oh, so in love with Teebo, if only he knew, to being the character who was a complete bitch, way self-centered, always manipulating people for what she wanted, and instead of her being hot for Teebo and Teebo being oblivious because he's so wise for his age except in those matters, it was the other way around. Teebo was a bumbling idiot totally in love with her, and she only used that to manipulate him. Wow, what a skank. They basically took the series and completely twisted it around. Chief Chirpa didn't look anything like himself in the second season compared to the first season. Some characters just vanished pretty much without a trace. It was bad. The second season of Ewoks might as well have been a separate cartoon series. It was that different. Now, I'm not going to get into all the bits and pieces of the individual stories here. If you want to check out my thoughts on that and the thoughts of others, check out RepublicForces.com. Republic Forces Radio Network, a podcast that I have been proud to be a part of for several years here that just actually ended here in November of 2013, Republic Forces Radio Network did a retrospective series where we took a look at all the episodes of Ewoks, those released on home video and otherwise thanks to home recordings and such here. So check those out if you're interested. It'll be a little bit creepy. You'll find that Barrett is a little bit obsessed with Latara, but otherwise makes for a very interesting listen, I think. What we want to focus on here is, what about the home video releases of this series? And despite what was said at the Star Wars Spectacular that aired on Sirius XM radio during the last celebration and all, StarWars.com has not put all the Ewoks and Droids episodes up for streaming like they said they were planning on doing. So hopefully that'll happen in the future, but not yet. There has never been in the United States, for those who are going to gripe out there and start becoming trolls, there has never been in the United States a VHS release, a NTSC VHS release of the entire Ewoks series, or Droids for that matter, nor has there been any DVD, Blu-ray, or otherwise releases. The closest we've ever come is just a handful of releases of Ewoks, most of which usually repeat the same material over and over here. So, first off, they started releasing this series through J2 Communications, and J2 seems to have had a bit of a confusion as to exactly what they wanted to do. It was 1990, the same year that we got the first box set of the classic trilogy in full screen. There wasn't a widescreen yet. That was another 2 years away and such. We were still 1 year away from the launch of the expanded universe with Heir to the Empire and such in 1991. J2 Communications decided to take two approaches at the same time when dealing with Ewoks. They started out by releasing this, Ewoks Volume 1, The Tree of Light. Notice it's a white bit of packaging here. Got your information about the story on the back. It advertises the Droids white cover edition there. And it calls it at the top, the Star Wars Trilogy Animated Collection. This is one episode, just the Tree of Light, on VHS. We should note here, though, before moving on, that the Tree of Light isn't the first episode. This is Volume 1. Tree of Light was Episode 6 of Ewoks. For some reason, their first volume is Episode 6. At the same time they were doing this, though, in the white packaging with one episode at a time, and this is the only one of those they ever released, they were releasing special so-called double-length editions in yellow packaging. This is that Volume 1. Star Wars Trilogy Animated Collection, Ewoks Volume 1, Special Double-Length Edition. This one including Cries of the Trees, which was episode number 1, and The Tree of Light, again, episode number 6. Flip it around, gives you information on both of them, and advertises its companion, Volume 2 of the 2-episode version, and then the two Volume 2, or Volume 1 and 2, 2-episode versions of Droids there. Very hard to keep all these numbers straight as I'm sort of babbling for you here. This one included 2 episodes, double length, whereas this one only included 1. And you got this episode on here, so there was no point to buy this one unless you were just unlucky enough to see this one in the store first. They also put out a Volume 2. This is Special Double-Length Edition. Again, it says down at the bottom. Volume 2, the 2-episode release. This one includes The Haunted Village, which is episode 2 of the series, and, of all things, Blue Harvest, right? You know, we gotta take the nod to, oh, it's Blue Harvest. They filmed part of Return of the Jedi under that. Yeah, we get it. We already know. But Blue Harvest makes no sense because that was episode number 12 of the series. And that's all they ever made of those from J2 Communications. So we had episode 6 by itself with no other releases in the white packaging with 1 episode each. And then in the yellow packaging, the double-length ones where we got 2 episodes each, we got episodes 1 and 6, which repeats the other, and episodes 2 and 12. That makes no sense whatsoever. What also doesn't seem to make a whole heck of a lot of sense is the way they were advertising these things. We have kind of a weird trailer here, and I'm going to show you this here. It also applies to the next episode of From the Star Wars Home Video Library. We're going to talk about the Droids releases, but I'm only going to show it in this episode because there's no point in showing these multiple times. I need to show you 2 videos here to make sense of all this, or lack of sense of all this. Okay, first off, on the white single-volume editions, they played a trailer for J2 Communications releases of Droids and Ewoks. But here's the trailer.
From J2 Communications and Lucasfilm Limited, the Star Wars Trilogy Animated Video Collection. Out of this world and into your home comes C-3PO and R2-D2, stars of the Star Wars Trilogy of movies in their very own animated adventure series, Star Wars Droids. Join 3PO, R2, and a galaxy of new friends and foes as they soar through a universe of futuristic fun. Collect them all. The White Witch, R2 and 3PO tangle with a notorious Fromm gang. And in Escape into Terror, join our heroes on a top-secret mission. In The Lost Prince, the droids come to the rescue of their new master. And in The New King, they fight to win back a king's throne. Or collect the Ewoks. Hold on tight as we visit the lovable Ewoks on their evergreen planet of Endor. Join the whole furry gang in their own exciting world of fun, danger, and high-flying hijinks. Start with The Cries of the Trees. The Ewoks fall prey to an evil spell. And in the Tree of Light, watch as our furry friends attempt to save their sacred tree. Visit the Haunted Village and learn a special lesson with magic soap. Or come to the Blue Harvest, where Wicket and his pals get mixed up with a crazy love potion. Now you can own all the Ewok tales and the further adventures of the Star Wars droids. Available in this galaxy now.
See, isn't that a little bit weird? They're basically talking about the content of these, 2 episodes each, but showing this. That probably led to some confusion. They eventually, when they put out these, the same year, 1990, you got a revamped version of this trailer that was fixed that looks like this.
From J2 Communications and Lucasfilm Limited, the Star Wars Trilogy Animated Video Collection. Out of this world and into your home comes C-3PO and R2-D2, stars of the Star Wars Trilogy of movies in their very own animated adventure series, Star Wars Droids. Join 3PO, R2, and a galaxy of new friends and foes as they soar through a universe of futuristic fun. Collect them all. The White Witch, R2 and 3PO tangle with a notorious Fromm gang. And in Escape into Terror, join our heroes on a top-secret mission. In The Lost Prince, the droids come to the rescue of their new master. And in The New King, they fight to win back a king's throne. Or collect the Ewoks. Hold on tight as we visit the lovable Ewoks on their evergreen planet of Endor. Join the whole furry gang in their own exciting world of fun, danger, and high-flying hijinks. Start with The Cries of the Trees. The Ewoks fall prey to an evil spell. And in the Tree of Light, watch as our furry friends attempt to save their sacred tree. Visit the Haunted Village and learn a special lesson with magic soap. Or come to the Blue Harvest, where Wicket and his pals get mixed up with a crazy love potion. Now you can own all the Ewok tales and the further adventures of the Star Wars droids. Available in this galaxy now.
That one at least gets the cover art right on these 2 episode ones that they're advertising, but that one then leaves out the fact that there was also this available out there. Really not a very good job being done there. Moreover, we also have an issue with some of the labeling. You see, they were putting these out around the same time, and it looks like some of their production facilities got a little bit confused. If you open up Volume 1 of the 2 episode version, you'll see there a label. Ewoks, Volume 1, The Tree of Light, Cries of the Trees. Never mind the fact that they're reversed from what it actually says on the box itself, okay? But they were producing the single episode ones at the same time. So we got some errors going on. Single episode volume. Mine is one of the error copies, which seem to be much more available than fixed copies or correct copies. Take out the tape. Take a look at the tape. Ewoks Volume 1, Tree of Light, Cries of the Trees. With the double length, running time in here is the double length version of the running time. That's right. Single episode tape labeled incorrectly as the double episode tape. I've only seen one person ever in my life, personally, who had a copy of this that had the right label just saying The Tree of Light. That's Jonathan Brenner from over at Republic Forces Radio Network, aforementioned series at republicforces.com. Very, very strange. I actually, in my case, wound up screwing up and buying 2 of these. I bought this one and then realized, wait a second, it doesn't seem to have the right contents on it because I just looked at the label, bought another one off of eBay, only when it came for it to be labeled the same way. Not sure what the heck's going on. I looked at the amount of tape compared to the amount of tape on these, finally popped it in the VCR, which I had to plug back in because I wasn't even using the thing, and sure enough, right contents, wrong label. So if you got this and it's labeled right, it's one of the rarer copies, it seems. If you got one of these and it's labeled wrong, don't worry, it probably does have the right contents, unless you've at some point in your collection gotten these two confused, as J2 Communications seems to have done. As for these episodes, not too bad. Good introduction to the series, but you notice all from Season 1. Probably because Season 2 is absolute garbage. So they've never released anything of Season 2 in the US on home video. Probably it should remain buried with the holiday special, but it's part of Star Wars history. We hopefully will actually see it on home video, despite how horrid it actually is. So what about later incarnations? In 1997, as a Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition was in theaters and then eventually on home video on VHS and Laserdisc and such, we saw another release of Ewoks, albeit a weird one. This is Star Wars Animated Classics, as opposed to Animated Collection, The Haunted Village. It's in a white clamshell case here, looks kind of neat, looks like a lot of kids' videos of the time. It's designed to have a similar logo to what we've seen, or a similar label to what we saw recently with this era's Star Wars films and whatnot, from the previous releases and whatnot, that whole blue and white and green thing going on. Now what makes this a little bit weird is that they took 4 episodes and combined them into essentially a feature film, basically an hour-and-a-half Ewoks animated film that just strings 4 episodes together for little rhyme or reason. The episodes in question are, in order, The Haunted Village, Episode 2, The Cries of the Trees, Episode 1, so it's got the first 2 episodes, but they're reversed, then Episode 3, Rampage of the Flogs, and then Episode 9, Sunstar vs. Shadowstone. But part of Sunstar vs. Shadowstone that talks about essentially the origin of the conflict over the Sunstar Shadowstone is actually cut from Sunstar vs. Shadowstone and moved to the beginning of the entire film before The Haunted Village. It's really, really bizarre how they set this up. But that's not the end of the changes. In The Cries of the Trees, there's supposed to be this maniacal laughter from Morag in the original episode after she captures Isrina. Instead, that's totally gone for the version that we get on the Haunted Village feature film, or whatever you want to call this bastardization.
There's a great thirst in the forest, almost as great as Morag's thirst for vengeance. And you, Wisty Queen, are my newest servant in my battle with Logray and his cursed Ewoks. There's a great thirst in the forest, almost as great as Morag's thirst for vengeance. And you, Wisty Queen, are my newest servant in my battle with Logray and his cursed Ewoks.
We also have a new establishing shot in this version that's not in the original episode, right before the Ewoks go get buckets of water to pour on the fire near the end of the episode.
Prepare the defenses! Prepare the defenses!
And probably the weirdest change is that there actually is a celebration scene after everything turns out well in Cries of the Trees, where the Ewoks are kind of partying with each other, that is in the original episode as aired on ABC, and completely absent from this. The original episode has Morag get doused with water, and then the celebration. Here it's Morag gets doused with water, we're on to the next episode. That kind of stinks to see content actually being taken out of this version of it.
And then it'll be just I. Huh? Thank the spirit tree. This rain will help the forest grow strong again.
Yay! We saved the tree! Saved the tree!
Cricket? Huh? I want to thank you for saving my soul tree. Can you ever forgive me for being so hard on you?
Oh, that's okay, Aunt Bozzy. Friends.
Friends. Huh? Be Chihuahua.
When it comes to the Haunted Village, its biggest issue is an order issue. But there were problems with both orders. The original airing order had Cries of the Trees, then the Haunted Village. And that's all well and good, except that in the original airing order, the Dulocs are fretting about needing bug repellent in Haunted Village after already getting it from Morag in Cries of the Trees. On the other hand, you flip it around, and the order they are on this has Milani, the little Ewok, getting her hood after she's already seen wearing the hood. As for Rampage of the Flogs, it's pretty much untouched, and Sunstar vs. Shadowstone, aside from cutting off the beginning and sticking it at the beginning of the whole shebang, that in and of itself is mostly untouched. The whole thing has been rescored with new music, and of course they've removed the opening and closing titles of the Ewok series, and instead slapped in new theatrical-style opening credits and end credits onto this film bastardization of those 4 episodes. But if that wasn't enough, to do that in 1997, there was more to come. I should note, before we move on here, though, that there is a trailer for the animated classics, which is what that clamshell version, that first feature-length version of Ewoks was part of, but I'm going to show you that trailer when we talk about Droids, because Droids isn't getting any other trailer love from the earlier trailers I just showed you. In 2004, same year as the first release of the Star Wars Classic Trilogy on DVD, with changes, of course, we got another release of the cartoons from the Animated Adventures series instead of Animated Collection or Animated Classics Collection. Now we have Animated Adventures. Well, pretty much the same thing. And what we got here was that bastardized Haunted Village film that smashed together those aforementioned 4 episodes and rescored everything, along with another bastardization of 4 episodes slammed together to make a film with no rhyme or reason to the order of the episodes. That version being entitled The Tales from the Endor Woods. Tales from the Endor Woods is noted here on the back of the case here, and this one was one of those DVDs you had to flip over, so you've got Haunted Village on one side, Tales from the Endor Woods on the other side, and you do have a little insert here with different art, and then you've got chapter breakdowns here. Now, if the Haunted Village didn't make a lot of sense doing episodes 2, 1, 3, and then 9, this one is even worse. This one starts with Wicket's Wagon, which is episode number 10. Then moves on to The Traveling Jindas, which is episode number 5. Then To Save Deej, which is episode 4, followed by Asha, which is episode 13, the season 1 finale. What the hell were they thinking? Fortunately, this series doesn't have much of the way of continuity between a lot of its episodes anyway, though there is some, just nothing really necessary for this installment. Now, interestingly, even though they switched the order around incredibly haphazardly for this, there's actually not all that many changes to the episodes themselves. Where the only episode that gets much of a change is one teeny tiny bit of a line that's cut from The Traveling Jindas. We come back from a commercial break in the original, and we have a line from Bondo saying, "Oh, my little Ewok, is it not blah blah blah?" And in this version, we just get, "Is it not blah blah blah?" with no "Oh, my little Ewok." Nothing really all that special.
Oh, my little Ewok, is it not fun being a Jinda? Is it not fun being a Jinda?
One thing that does make this kind of interesting is that when they rescored this and did the whole, new theatrical type opening, theatrical type credits and such at the end of it, they added sort of an overview narration of it from an older Wicket W. Warwick looking back on his youth.
I remember it well, back when I was still Wicket the young Ewok, not Wicket the Ewok warrior. I remember all the wonderful adventures I had with my friends Nisa, Tibu, and Latara. There was the time Latara ran away to play flute with the fabulous traveling Jindas. And there was the time we had to search all Endor for a potion to save my dad's life. Then there was the mystery of Asha, the wild red-furred Ewok girl who would protect the forest animals from the evil Dulocs. And speaking of Dulocs, I especially remember the time they tried to steal my grandfather's wagon.
So that's kind of cool. We now have a new voiceover as Wicket talking about these events, which gives us a new perspective on things, but beyond that, nothing really all to write home about this set here. So for those of us who are longtime Star Wars fans and want to see Ewoks and droids on home video, even though they're not that great of series, this has really been a letdown. I mean, 1990, at least they tried. They didn't know what the heck they were doing. They were putting out one episode on a volume 1 of one product line, and then 4 episodes as the first 2 volumes of a completely different product line, cross-promoting them somehow with a trailer that didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense on the first set, and then we got nothing but these bastardized, movieized versions of these that really aren't meant to fit together, and certainly aren't in the order that they were aired. Moreover, we don't get anything from Season 2, though again, Season 2 was god-awful anyway. Ewoks has never really been given its due, and it should be, especially these days. I say that because Ewoks is back. This is Star Wars Ewoks Shadows of Endor from Dark Horse Comics, a 2013 release that is bringing back Ewoks and trying to sort of bridge the gap between these different incarnations that we got of the Ewoks, because we have the Ewoks Star Comics series, stuff we looked at in the regular From the Star Wars Library video series. After the Star Comics come the cartoons, Season 1 and Season 2. After that comes the telemovies, regular Ewok Adventure Caravan of Courage and Ewoks The Battle for Endor, followed by Return of the Jedi. Basically, all this Ewok stuff has been said to fit in between either the 3rd year after A New Hope and the 4th year after A New Hope. The beginning of the 4th year is Return of the Jedi, because it happens in the same month of the year, or in the 9 months between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, because Empire Strikes Back is actually in month 6 on the calendar, whereas A New Hope and Return of the Jedi are in month 3, making there only a 9-month gap between Empire and Jedi, something that I was able to sort of suss out as we were doing the Essential Atlas a while back. So there's sort of been some question as to how does this all fit together, and now we've got this, where the bulk of the story takes place before the Ewok telemovies, but after the Ewok cartoon series, and is set 8 months before the events of Return of the Jedi. So what seems to have taken place recently as far as reshuffling goes is Shadows of Endor is 8 months prior to Return of the Jedi, otherwise a month after The Empire Strikes Back. It's within that last 8 months before Return of the Jedi that we get the Ewok telemovies, Caravan of Courage, Battle for Endor, which we're going to be looking at in the very near future here. As for the cartoon series and the Star Comics stuff that's also supposed to still be in that same year, we have to assume that maybe the 2nd season or some of it was in that month between The Empire Strikes Back and Shadows of Endor, but the rest of it probably in the 3 months between the beginning of that calendar year relative to the Battle of Yavin and The Empire Strikes Back. It's not all between Empire and Jedi anymore. Some of it is just before Empire up to Jedi. Doesn't make a difference unless you're really, really nitpicky, but hey, I am gotta be for the Star Wars Timeline Gold, which you can find, of course, at the link down there at the bottom, along with detailed explanations of a lot of this stuff. So, Ewoks never getting its due. Hopefully it will get its due in the near future because, hey, Disney's got the rights now. Disney does all kinds of kiddie stuff, and it seems like Dark Horse, at least, is going back to the Ewoks well. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.